Hey guys, what's going on? It's Corey Vanderplu at Corey Photo on Twitter and Instagram. Today I'm going to talk to you about color matching images. You can see that if we look at these two images, the colors are slightly off. I'd like to get them to match. I normally do the same kind of treatment over and over and over again, but for some reason I just can't get these colors to look the same. You can see it's a little bit more red here. It's a little bit more saturated, and this is just with my regular moves. So if you've been looked at any of my other videos, you'll see I do the same kind of contrast moves with the curves underneath it, hue and saturation. This is all a template. Check out my video on color tones and skin treatments and you'll see what I mean. So let's break it down. So the first thing that I want to do, if this is our main image, is I'm just going to copy and paste this image. So if you go Shift Command Option E, it duplicates this layer. Then I'm just going to hold Apple A, Apple C, and then Apple D to get rid of it. And then all I'm going to do really is post it right on top of everything else. Turn my crop on. So now I'm going to make this much smaller. And really all I'm trying to do is match the skin tones. The skin tones are the most important to me. So you'll see, I'm going to turn this on. You can see, yeah, the background's a little more saturated. Her skin's actually a lot more red and the skin tones are way off. So let's go step by step here. I mean, this is just to make the image nice and flat, and then we're adding our contrast. So this seems like it's getting right, but it seems like it's a little too saturated. I always do 2 contrast layers because I like the snap that it gives it. You can call it whatever you want. I think this is nice and snappy. Turn my hue and saturation layer on, and again, these are cranked. Like, I cranked the first contrast almost full, second one is almost full. You can see it just starts to get a little too crunchy in the edges, so keep it a nice 73. My hue and saturation is usually around a -10 as like a standard, or -25. My color balance is usually pretty standard here, but I'm gonna start it at 0 so we can get it where we're starting, and then I always do a curves layer just to lift it. But you can see that the colors are just a little bit off. So the first thing I want to do is, I think it's too saturated. So I mean, these are our base. This is our base right here. I pretty much every photo can be manipulated enough just with these layers. Again, if you want to know more about these layers, look at the video up here in the right about again, how to deal with color tones and skin tones. So the first thing we're going to do is desaturate. So I'm going to bring this right down to like -25. I mean, it's silly how much that actually helped. And then one thing I always like to do is make the cyans just a little bit more blue. If you look now, the skin tones are pretty good. Again, this is a close-up image. This is a full-length image, so the detail is going to be lost a little bit. If we go back and forth, you can see a lot of detail in here. Not so much detail because it's a full-length image, but we're getting really close. I might have gone a little too far with the desaturation. The main point of this little exercise is really to get used to, just when you're working with color images, bring down the color image that you're happy, or your first one, and then start matching it to that. And then on your second image, if I was to do another image other than this one, I wouldn't take this image and paste it over. I would bring this one again. So trying to match it to the same image always. But this looks pretty good. I'm looking in the gradients here and it looks really nice. The shadows are pretty solid. You see this color balance made a big difference. Got rid of some of the yellows and added a tinge of blue and just really made it mirror it pretty closely. This curves layer also did a lot. It just lifted up the shadows and in the mid-tones, and it did help a lot. But again, I honestly think if you just stay within these curves, the color balance, hue and saturation, and if you're like me and love a lot of contrast, this is really all you need. These aren't really doing anything. This is just getting some detail in the blacks and bringing back some detail in the whites, not really affecting the color at all. And I think that's it. I think that's all you have to do, and you'll see I'm using a final image with the grain on it, so even adding the grain on it will make quite a difference. I even think this is a little too much, so let's drop this back. But again, people aren't normally going to be looking at an image at 200%, so if I bring it right back and then make this just even a little bigger. Oops. Let's make this a little bigger. You can see it does sit well and it does marry quite nicely with it. It's a bit weird because this is a kind of a flat tone in the background. You can see here the light is giving it some cool shades and gradients, but I really do think that marries nicely. So the pro tip here is copy and paste your image over, even if it helps if you just do something small like the skin tone and then bring that over, and then when you zoom in you can really see that we are pretty on par here, as opposed to, say, the before and after, where it is very different. And now you throw on these layers and you get it nice and close. So again, you guys have any tips or questions on how to color correct images? This is the best way. It is the way I learned from a great retoucher who's been in the business for over 40 years. He uses this one frequently because I know if you're dealing with color images, there's always going to be some weird kind of color shift. So enjoy. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, like and subscribe, all of that weird stuff, and happy shooting.